It's that back to school time of year, so today we're going to be counting down the top 20 high school horror movies of all time. And I don't just mean horror movies about teenagers, because several of those don't actually have that much time in the school, like Halloween, Scream, Fright Night, The Lost Boys. These are films that actually center around the school setting itself. My name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and that's the bell. Let's get to class.
Marty Ranson is still a dork, but tonight he's getting even. Slaughter High.
Slaughter High from 1986. This is a classic 80s slasher about a group of teens who pull a horrific prank on a nerdy classmate within the school. Years later, they're all invited back to the school for a high school reunion and figure out it might actually be a plot for revenge. A big theme of this genre is bullying, and I actually think that's something great about centering horror movies around high school, is it's a really good way to explore a lot of themes of adolescence, of growing up, of the whole high school experience. And this even tackles the idea of high school reunions as a return to unresolved teen trauma. And when I say trauma, I really mean it. My God, according to this movie, 80s bullies are like terrorists. The prank that they pull on this kid in the beginning is so elaborate, horrific, so incredibly over the top, crazy, awful. So it really makes you on board for the revenge that's going to follow post-graduation. Mostly it's a film not about teenagers, but it takes place entirely within the school, an abandoned, closed down school that they actually get brought back to. And all of these characters are awful. There are no redeemable characters in sight, not even the great Caroline Munro. And that is the point of the movie. But it's hard to deny it also makes the film a little less enjoyable to watch. I don't think Slaughter High is a great movie by any means, but it's wacky, over the top, it's got really crazy kills. The one of the couple in the bed has got to be the standout. It's a movie that makes no attempt to be different, original, unexpected. Right from the start of the movie, it declares what it is. It's that. It is what it is. If you're in for a corny 80s slasher movie, this is one that is quintessential for high school horror. Disturbing Behavior from 1998, which is one that follows the theme of being a new student who transfers into a school and is feeling pressure to conform. And it goes all in with that idea, with James Marsden going to this school and finding that all the cool kids, all the popular kids, conform to a shocking degree where they all seem the same and there's something creepy about them. Since he's not an easy conformist, he ends up bonding with a group of outsiders played by Katie Holmes and Nick Stahl, giving two of the most 90s performances of all time. This film is so over the top. It is so ridiculous and silly with all of its slang of the time. Like Katie Holmes keeps calling everything razor, like that's so razor. I find this hilarious and it's nothing that I ever heard during this time period. It also seems to be tackling the idea of the dangers of sexual awakening in teenagers, because a hallmark of these popular kids is they turn to violent behavior, disturbing behavior, whenever they get sexually turned on. So it's a wacky, ridiculous movie, but it looks terrific. It was filmed in the Pacific Northwest. The atmosphere is great. I really like the lead performance from James Marsden and pretty much everybody around him. It's a lot of fun.
Look, I know I look like the butcher, but it's Millie.
He's crazy.
Okay, Booker, can you look at me?
Come and get it.
Freaky from 2020. This is the film that really solidified Christopher Landon as the guy who would merge classic comedies with slasher movies, because he first did that with Happy Death Day, making a Groundhog Day kind of slasher film. This is a Freaky Friday slasher film. In fact, the original title for this was Freaky Friday the 13th, but for obvious rights reasons, they couldn't do that. So it's a body swap movie starring Katherine Newton as a shy teenage girl who body swaps with a serial slasher played by Vince Vaughn. So there's a lot of fun antics because of that. Unlike Happy Death Day, this is actually rated R, so it's got a lot of gore, and I think that was definitely for the best, because I think this movie needed it. Ultimately, I think Happy Death Day is the better movie. It's got better heart. Jessica Roth's performance is just so phenomenal in that, but that's a college movie, so it can't be on the list. Freaky is definitely a high school film that I still think is a lot of fun. Vince Vaughn especially really shines here, getting to play both a slasher and a teenage girl, and doing great in both ways. Freaky is over the top, ridiculous, funny, super gory, and I like it. My Soul to Take from 2010. This is a rare birthday horror movie that centers around this town that had a horrific serial killer called the Riverton Ripper slaughter through the town, but he vanished without a trace, and on that same day, 7 children were born. Now, they're all turning 16 and all turning up dead. That is a really intriguing premise, and you'd probably expect nothing less of Wes Craven. This was written and directed by him, a rare film in the late part of his career that he did right. And my soul to take, it somewhat shows that he was losing his touch, perhaps with the younger generation, because the script of this film is absolutely insane. For as much as disturbing behavior is ridiculous and over the top in its depiction of teens and slang and such like that, my soul to take is 1,000 times crazier. The dialogue is so bananas in this movie, and a lot of people write the film off because of that and just say it's terrible. I say it's really entertaining because the dialogue is so hyper stylized. It's always interesting to listen to.
God hears you wherever you are. If things get too hot, just turn on the prayer conditioning.
Prayer conditioning. That's the kind of puns that you can expect in My Soul to Take. It's like this takes place in its own bizarre, unhinged universe, this high school that has this insanely complicated power structure within it. But it is never boring for a second. The kills are really gruesome, really horrific, some of the most savage in Wes Craven's career. And I find the movie very entertaining for all those reasons. Cry Wolf from 2005. This is a movie about a group of teenagers at a boarding high school who create a fictional serial killer online and spread rumors about him, and then start to figure out he may be coming to life. So this is directed by Jeff Wadlow, the guy behind most of the Blumhouse movies that everybody hates, like Truth or Dare, Fantasy Island, Imaginary. So he's gotta be one of the least popular directors in the horror community, and Cry Wolf is a film that a lot of people think is terrible and has a very bad reputation. I think that reputation is in desperate need of turning around. I think this is so underrated. It is such a fun high school movie, all taking place at this elite boarding school, so it's actually got a little bit more of a college feeling atmosphere, even though it's not college. It also follows the themes of a new kid coming in, figuring out the power hierarchy of the high school, getting in with the cool kids, including Lindy Booth as Dodger, who is essentially the puppet master behind the entire school. And I actually think her performance here is great and kind of better than this film deserves. But for a 2000 slasher, it's just really different and original. There's really nothing else much like it. It's got a lot of unexpected twists and even Bon Jovi in a supporting role. I really enjoy this film, and it's a great autumn movie, so it's a terrific one to watch for fall vibes.
Evilspeak.
Evilspeak from 1981. Now we're finally getting to a movie about a boarding school that is a military academy. It's about a horrifically bullied military school student who fights back by a computer with the devil. Like Cry Wolf is an early cautionary tale about the dangers of teenagers using the internet, this is about the dangers of teenagers using computers, and can they connect with something evil with computers, in this case, the devil. And like Cry Wolf, Evilspeak is one that a lot of people think is terrible, gets made fun of, kind of as a so bad it's good film at best, but I just really disagree. I really enjoy Evilspeak for several reasons, one of the big reasons being Clint Howard in the lead. I think he's really good here. He's incredibly sympathetic, you feel so much on his side, you want him to be okay, but you're just forced to watch him go down this really dark path, connecting with satanic energies. This was actually one of Clint Howard's favorite roles that he had ever done, and that makes sense because it's a rare time he got to be a lead. He pulled it off so well. The military academy atmosphere is good. That very much creates a tension with an incredibly strict environment the characters have to live in. Evilspeak really takes full advantage of that, and having really horrible bullies that you so desperately want there to be revenge against. And the violence of the film, the darkness of the film, is just fever pitch. Like, it is a brutal movie. It is incredibly violent. Like, I almost can't believe how far it goes in the third act. And that is the reason that it ended up being one of the video nasties, one of the banned films over in the UK. And this is one of those films where you watch and you're like, I see how it's part of that category. It's real dark, it's real extreme. I think it rules. Jennifer's Body from 2009. This is a rare example of a succubus horror film about a gorgeous, seductive cheerleader who gets possessed by a demon, and her nerdy friend is the only one that can stop it. It definitely follows the themes of sexual awakening during teenage years and the horrors of your friend being more sexually advanced than you and you feeling left behind. Jennifer's Body is one of the clearest examples in recent times of a true cult film, a movie that was not successful when it came out, got terrible reviews, everybody talked about how terrible it was, but over time, it has found its audience, and it is a really popular movie now, a really respected movie now. I hear this film get praised up and down constantly, and it seems like marketing was a big reason for its initial failure. The director, Karen Kusama, was very upset about how the marketing really centered around how hot Megan Fox was, and it seemed like it was very much marketing to male horror fans. But now, it seems like it's one of the most popular films for women horror fans. And even as a dude, I just think this movie's super entertaining. It's really fun. It's written by Diablo Cody, so her stylized, hyper crazy dialogue is a lot of fun. Everybody turns in really solid performances. Amanda Seyfried, Megan Fox, Adam Brody, and a young Chris Pratt even. It's violent, monstrous, really delivers as a succubus horror film. I just think it's super engaging. Prom Night 3, The Last Kiss. Very much following up Prom Night 2, this is about a high school student who encounters the ghost of Mary Lou, who wants to be his new girlfriend. Now, obviously the Prom Night franchise is quintessential high school horror. I just went with one of them, and this one is my favorite. It's a little bit of an unfair fight because this is the only one that I got to see in a theater packed with horror fans who were just going nuts for it. So it was incredibly fun, and I just think Prom Night 3 is so funny. It is a hilarious horror comedy about a young student who's very much wrestling with only feeling average and being uncomfortable with his assigned role in high school culture. So it's very much classic themes of trying to find yourself during those years, trying to figure out who you are, if you really can be something special. But the way that he finds to do that is with this horrific demon ghost. And Mary Lou here is hilarious. She is full of sexy, scary puns that are incredibly funny. God, this movie is an absolute blast. And if it wasn't already a perfect high school horror film, there's a certain point in this movie where they switch dimensions, go to hell, and it's all still within the school. So school becomes hell. If that's not the best high school horror kind of idea that you've ever heard, I don't know what is. The Blackcoat's Daughter from 2015. This is another boarding school example, a prestigious Catholic prep school, and it's about the school being on the verge of a week-long winter break, and some students whose parents never picked them up, and they got left behind. So if you're looking for an atmosphere of an abandoned school, practically empty, that's very much what this movie gives you, as well as just an overwhelming, bleak, dark atmosphere. This is the first film by Osgood Perkins, who's become one of my favorite directors right now, and he's just so good at a slow, quiet feeling of dread. And I think this is still his best movie, his best version of that. It's got a great cast of people like Lucy Boynton and Kieran Shipka and Emma Roberts. And Kieran Shipka in particular is just that very quiet outsider student who hasn't found belonging or connection anywhere and is now looking for it with the devil. This is a satanic horror film, a scary one, and the snowy, winter, oppressively cold atmosphere of it really fits that as well. If you're looking for the creepiest high school on this list, it's probably gonna be this one.
Oh, she's pretty. If I wasn't here, would you eat her?
Ginger Snaps from 2000. One of the biggest cult hits of the werewolf genre, and very much about one particular idea that pretty much everybody is dealing with during high school or maybe junior high, and that is puberty. Ginger Snaps is an ultimate horror movie about puberty and it transforming you into something else, perhaps something monstrous. That's really where the werewolf legend comes in with Ginger Snaps, but beyond just being a perfect allegory for that, it's just a really good movie. Katherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins are terrific as these outsider students who don't fit in, don't belong anywhere, and it also tackles the idea that Emily Perkins has never gone through puberty. She still hasn't hit that point in her life. And Katherine Isabelle does, because of the werewolfism. So it's another example of tackling the anxiety of you being left behind by your friends or your siblings who are moving into adulthood faster than you are.
I've been chosen, Buffy,
To do what?
to stop the vampires.
Does Elvis talk to you?
Buffy, the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1992. The movie that kicked off the iconic TV show about popular cheerleader girl Buffy, who figures out she's a vampire killer. This is another great example of high school horror because of how it uses the genre trappings to be about something real. It's about popularity versus responsibility. It's about moving from high school concerns into adult concerns, and it shows that arc brilliantly, with Kristy Swanson giving a great performance as a very vapid, shallow girl who really just cares about popularity, and having to grow up through the course of the movie and figuring out her adult responsibilities and how she has to fit into that. And she becomes such a likable character throughout the course of the film. She's also got a great romance in the movie with Luke Perry, showing her moving on from shallow relationships to more meaningful relationships. And it's just got such a phenomenal cast all around her. Paul Reubens, Rutger Hauer is the ultimate vampire threat. I mean, he's just one of the greatest villain actors of all time. And I even love Donald Sutherland as her mentor. Buffy is very fast-paced. It's fun, it's funny, it's got vampire action everywhere you need it to, and like most every great high school movie, it ends at prom.
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
The Craft.
The Craft from 1996. Another horror movie about bullied outsiders who are pushed to the margins of high school culture and have to find some kind of supernatural way to beat the natural power hierarchy and become something more, become their own people. And that's what you get with 4 teenage girls who discover witchcraft, when very much use it for teenage experimentation with identity, belonging, teen rebellion. It's great for all those themes, and it's such a fun movie. I mean, if you love Scream for that late 90s feel to a slasher film, this is very much that, but for witch movies. You've even got some cast members in common like Neve Campbell and Skeet Ulrich. But Robin Tunney's the actual lead, of course being a newcomer to this high school, being her audience surrogate in to discover this world. But the standout performance gotta be Fairuza Balk as the most sinister of all of the witchy girls. It's just got a lot of fun spellcasting sequences, stiff as a board, you know, it's a classic scene. I just really love The Craft. It's a blast.
Or you simply cannot afford to fail this class.
Class of 1984 from 1982, not 1984. So we've talked about so many movies about teenagers. Finally, it's time to talk about one from the teacher's perspective. For movies about teachers, probably the most classic theme is a new teacher coming to a rough school with a lot of bad kids and being an inspiration. This is the super over-the-top, horrific, savage horror version of that kind of idea. You get a new music teacher coming to a school where everybody there, including Roddy McDowall as a fellow teacher, just really builds up how this is like the worst school in the world. It's so scary. It's so horrible to teach here. And it's really all because of one gang. And our new teacher just straight up goes to war with these students. It's about teacher authority being unable to control the chaos of adolescence, and it is so extreme, it's so over the top. I mean, it is just wild to watch how far this movie is willing to go with the things that these teenagers do, and yes, how far the teacher's willing to go to respond to it, and he definitely makes some bad decisions. But that's kind of all the fun of the movie. This is like the ultimate Fear the Youth movie, the ultimate kids these days movie, where you're just like, oh my gosh, teenagers, they're so horrible. They can get away with anything. The justice system will do nothing about their savagery. You get all of that here. Normally, this would just be a thriller, maybe even a drama, but because it's so extreme and it really becomes a slasher film from an unexpected point of view in the third act, then it fits very well in the horror category. I love Class of 84, specifically because of how ridiculous it is. I think it's so entertaining. The Rage Carrie 2 from 1999. This is essentially an early example of a legacy sequel, being a sequel to the original Carrie, but only sharing one cast member in common, the character that survives the end of the first film and has now become the guidance counselor. And other than her, it's just about a new crop of characters with a similar kind of story. This is not a popular movie and one that I had always heard was pretty bad, and I finally gave it a chance just recently. And guys, I was just blown away by it. It was so much better than I expected. I genuinely think this is a really good film. It does an excellent job being a Carrie-type story without at all being a remake of the first film. It's a very different kind of story. Even our main Carrie-type character stand-in is a very different kind of character. She is an outsider, but she's not so much ultra-bullied, super shy. She's an alternative girl who's had a rough background but has toughened up because of it, but has to face a horrible situation because of her friend undergoing a worse version of bullying and taking herself out of the world, essentially because of it. And Rachel, our new character, has to struggle to deal with that, and also finds legitimate romance with the football team captain who's unhappy with his role in high school and wants to break out of what people expect of him. The teen villains that you get here, much like in the first film, are horrible, and you just cannot wait for them to get some kind of comeuppance, but still very different, very distinct. This is not a remake. So sure, it's not perfect. Like most legacy sequels, it's at its weakest when it's trying to connect to the first movie, and the final showdown that you would expect to get here is nowhere near as glorious as it is in the first film. All around, the first film is much better. We'll get to that later. But I was just so interested in this story. It's just a good story, well told, about characters I genuinely cared about, and I loved the super 90s aesthetic and soundtrack and vibe of it. It's a very nostalgic movie, and I think it's a blast. Phenomena from 1985. A Dario Argento Italian horror film about a young American girl who goes to a Swiss boarding school and discovers there have been a string of murders there, and maybe she can solve the murders with the help of bugs. Basically, Phenomena is about adolescence as a time of self-discovery, of figuring out new things about yourself, new things that you can do. And it's in like the weirdest way possible, because Jennifer Connelly's character, Jennifer Connelly, great in this movie, by the way, figures out that she has a telekinetic connection with insects. She loves insects, and they're going to help her solve a murder. This is the kind of thing that could easily be like a kid's movie about a kid going to a new school and getting to solve crimes with her bug friends. But because it's Dario Argento, it's super violent, super over the top. It's got gruesome kill scenes. And the third act of this film is one of the most bonkers things I've ever seen. It goes so far off the rails with things like a killer chimp and tons of dead bodies everywhere that Jennifer Connelly finds. Donald Pleasance as a bug scientist who helps her. I actually love Donald Pleasance in here. The two of them have a really great buddy chemistry. This is absolutely one of my favorite Italian horror films, and even though it's unconventional for this genre, it's still got some good high school themes, and I love it.
You've heard of raising spirits from the dead by incantations, right?
Yes.
I did that by playing the record backwards.
Trick or treat.
Trick or Treat from 1986. This is another one about a high school outsider, in this case a metalhead who is bullied by the really preppy students who don't understand him, and it ends up being something of a wish fulfillment story where his favorite rock star comes back from the dead, specifically to him. A lot of high school horror films have seeds of wish fulfillment at the center, about outsiders who are gifted some kind of way to get back at people or to raise themselves up, to improve their bad situation during high school years, which are very difficult for a lot of people. And this is really that. And at times, it's super fun in that way. Like, there is a scene where he is able to get back at some of the bullies in such a fun way. It's this chase all throughout the school, and it's just so invigorating. Like, you just pump your fist and you're so excited for him. But of course, because it's a horror movie, it's gotta go dark. And this rock star back from the grave does end up being evil and doing horrible things, and only our main character can stop him. Skippy from Family Ties is great in the lead. He's so believable, feels so authentic as this kind of kid, and he's even got this great relationship with a popular girl who, like a lot of characters in these movies, is unsatisfied with her place and wants to break out of that, wants to do something different, be with different kind of people. But besides all of that, It's just a great heavy metal movie. It's got a terrific soundtrack by Fastway that will have you headbanging throughout the duration of the movie. It's got cameos by Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons. Trick or Treat rocks.
Start her up. Her name's Christine.
Christine from 1983. So what's something that most everybody has in high school at some point? A crush. But what if you had that crush on a car? I think we've all been there, haven't we? Christine follows nerdy high schooler Arnie Cunningham, played wonderfully by Keith Gordon, who finds self-discovery through his obsessive new attachment to a car named Christine. And it is really good about being in high school, in those adolescence years, just finding something you connect with and grabbing onto it way too tight and letting it just kind of form your entire personality. I think that's a pretty common experience in these years. Christine is great about being about that in a really extreme way, with Christine being this sentient car that practically possesses him, takes over his life, and yes, does allow him some self-discovery to become more of a man, to find his own sense of style, and finally find a girlfriend, but it all leads to very dark outcomes. It's told from the perspective of his best friend, played by John Stockwell, and there you get the themes of seeing your friend go down a dark path and you're trying to help them, but they just won't let you. But what I really love about Christine is it is the perfect pairing of Stephen King and John Carpenter. And it feels so distinct as both of them in that, like, it's such a classic Stephen King kind of story. Even though they did make changes from the book, it feels like classic King. But it also has got all the John Carpenter aesthetics and feel and one of his best scores. This is one of my favorite movies from both of them, and the merging of the 80s feel and the 50s aesthetics and music just make it an entire thing a match made in heaven.
Hey, Nancy. No running in the hallway.
A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, the classic Wes Craven film that started it all with Freddy Krueger. Now, something that I should have mentioned about the ranking of this perhaps earlier is the ranking is really based on quality, my personal preference, but also how well they fit as a high school movie. And I'll tell you, A Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite movie on this list. I love this film, everything about it. I love the characters, Nancy Thompson, Tina. Freddy is one of the scariest horror characters ever created. Obviously, the idea of a monster that can get you through your dreams is so creative, so terrifying. And Tina's death scene in particular, slight spoilers, you've seen this movie, right? Is, I think, the greatest kill in horror cinema history. It's just the scariest kill scene ever created. It is so awesome. But as a high school movie, it doesn't quite have as much time at the high school as the top two movies on this list. It's not as much about the high school. It's more about the suburb and the street, as the title would suggest. But it's still got some great stuff at the school. I think yet another of the scariest scenes of all time is the body bag that shows up in the classroom, in the hallway, that is dragged away. I mean, I imagine if you saw this in the 80s when you were in high school, you probably just looked around corners and expected to see that body bag around a dark hallway, perhaps in the empty seat next to you. Creepy, creepy stuff. Elm Street is a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest horror movies ever made. I'm sure you know that. But as a high school movie, there's a couple that have to top it.
Is this gonna be on the test?
This is the test.
The Faculty.
The Faculty from 1998. A high school telling of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where a group of teens discover their school is being taken over by body-swapping aliens. Confession time, I just recently did a video on my favorite 90s horror movies, and The Faculty is not there. It did not make that list because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I did not remember how good it was. And now that I rewatched it for this list, that is a regret. So official apology that The Faculty is not on my top 90s horror movies. But you know what? All these lists can be is a snapshot of my thoughts at that moment in time, based on what I'd seen at that time or what I'd seen recently to remember. It is what it is. I regret it now. The Faculty is awesome. Now, something great about it as an example of high school horror is how it uses The Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club is probably the quintessential high school movie ever made, and this very much uses that movie as a template and turns it into a horror film. It is about high school cliques uniting against a common threat. Not the principal this time, not society and parents, but aliens. It's got all those high school archetypes that you would want to see. The cast is ridiculously good. Like, it would take me so long just to name every notable name that is in this movie. It's so fun just to watch all of them pop up. But for me, the standout is Josh Hartnett in the Judd Nelson type role. Judd Nelson, of course, being the standout of The Breakfast Club. The dark criminal bad guy with a heart of gold is just such a great character archetype. And Josh Hartnett kills it here. Like, it's so fun to watch his facade of what a bad guy he is kind of fall down, even realizing that the drugs that he sells are actually much more harmless than he made them out to be. Almost the whole movie takes place at the high school, and it's another wish fulfillment example of a positive version of teen rebellion against authority. If you ever wanted to band together with your friends and just rebel against all the teachers and the principals and the mean football coach, here you can do that and be in the right because they're aliens. And it's so perfect because when you're a teenager, you already feel like the adults are aliens. This movie is a blast. It's fun, it's funny, it's intense. It's actually got really good alien monster content on screen. I adore it.
Carrie.
Number 1, Carrie. From 1976, the classic Stephen King story about a telekinetic outsider high schooler who discovers her powers in a horrific way. When I first started putting this list together, I immediately moved Carrie up to the top, and I never questioned it. It is the quintessential high school horror film ever made. It is the ultimate film about the horrors of adolescence, puberty, bullying, being at the mercy of one's crazy parents, being at the mercy of the popular kids, and the corrupt power structure of the school. It is perfect chef's kiss at tackling all of those ideas. Sissy Spacek is so lovable and sympathetic as this character. You just feel so sad for her as she fights against her horrific mother, played by Piper Laurie, who is also in The Faculty, by the way. Piper Laurie, the secret queen of high school horror. The evil popular kids like John Travolta and Nancy Allen, and William Catt, who's great in this movie as the prom king kind of guy who brings her under his arm and still can't really be trusted. It's the ultimate film about teen revenge. The final showdown is incredible. For as much as I like Carrie 2, it cannot even compare to the end of this movie. Brilliantly directed by Brian De Palma. I genuinely think it's one of those few perfect movies. As a film in general, as a horror movie, a scary experience, and as a film about adolescence, it's the best. Before I go, I just want to send out a massive thank you to my patrons for supporting me on this channel. It really means the world. If anybody else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Chris McTaggart, Evan Sonar, and Cephalabroad. You guys are the coolest cats in school. If you want to check any of these movies out for yourself, I do have streaming recommendations right here on the screen, as well as physical media links in the description, and using those does help support the channel. What are some of your other favorite high school horror movies? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to hang out with me more, you can click on the video on the screen. Thank you all so much. Don't let the popular kids keep you down, and I'll see you next time. Bye.